Hey guys, Rick here at Heel and Field Farm. Today let's talk a little bit about fruit trees and the differences between dwarf, semi-dwarf, and a full size. So obviously, dwarf and semi-dwarf are smaller than a full size tree, but there's a lot of differences between them, and it's something to take into consideration when you want to plant them on your homestead. So first off, dwarfs live 15 to 20 years, and the full-size trees will live 35 to 45 years. So that's something you want to consider when you're planting, not just for your homestead or yourself, but the next generation after that as well. So, and sometimes maybe a mixed orchard is best, and that way you're always producing. You're not always planting new trees. But so a dwarf size is a third to half of the size of a full-size tree, whereas a semi-dwarf can be about half to 3/4 of a full-size tree. A dwarf is 5 to 8, or a dwarf needs 5 to 8 feet between trees. Semi-dwarf would be about 12 to 15, and then a full size you would need like 30 feet in between the trees when planting. So dwarfs will start to produce fruit between 2 to 3 years. A semi-dwarf will start producing between 4 years and 6 years, and a full size fruit tree will start producing 7 to 10 years. So there is quite a difference between them. You could start off with a couple dwarfs, you'll have some fruit within a few years, throw in a couple semi-dwarfs, and then you're building a rotation where that you'll make sure that you get fruit reasonably quickly from planting a tree, and then have a continual harvest season after season. So a dwarf tree will grow about 8 to 10 feet tall. They can reach widths of 30 feet wide. A semi-dwarf will be about 12 to 15 feet tall, and a full-size fruit tree will be 20 to 25 feet tall with a 40-foot diameter in width. So that takes up a lot of room. 40 feet doesn't seem like a lot, but that's a pretty big area of a lawn, or wherever you plant it. So that something else to really keep in mind is how much space you're willing to give up for a single fruit tree. The benefit of having the smaller, like a dwarf or semi-dwarf, is they require minimal pruning, whereas a full tree you're pruning yearly, and you're pruning a lot sometimes. And the dwarfs are a lot shorter height, so you're not up on ladders trying to prune. You can pretty much reach everything, maybe just a short step ladder here and there, because if it's only 8 to 10 with a dwarf, or 12 to 15, you need a little bit taller ladder. But it's much easier to maintain those smaller trees. So the one downside to the dwarf trees or semi-dwarf trees is they often require staking to give them more support. Their root systems are not as diverse and don't grow out as much, so they need that extra stability, especially when fruit season comes in and it starts bearing fruit, because now you've got a lot of added weight in it, and the trees become a little more top heavy. So the dwarf trees will produce about a bushel a year in fruit. So that's not a lot when you think about it, but the average family, that's probably enough for a small family for a year. A full-size tree will produce about 8 bushels. So there is a huge difference in the amount of fruit production you'll get. But again, it depends what you're going to use it for. Are you going to eat all those apples? Are you going to can some of those apples? You're going to bake a lot of pies. Maybe you sell pies. But that goes with pears and cherries. These all produce about the same overall. So It really depends on your use, how much land you have. You know, maybe you don't want to tie up that much land. Maybe you want to have a mixed garden or fruit tree garden and have or a little mini orchard and have different some dwarf, some semi-dwarf, some full size, and that'll give you a really good, you know, all around orchard that you can choose from, you know, year after year. So ourselves, we're going to start off with a few dwarfs and probably a couple semi-dwarfs and then 2 or 3 full-size trees. That way, you know, we're not going to get any fruit from those full size for, you know, 7 to 10 years. But we do want some trees on the property that, you know, when it comes time to pass it down, that this property will still be producing for the next generation. So, and the other last thing I'm just going to add is all the fruit is the same size. So just because you're getting a dwarf tree, you're not getting mini apples. You're getting full-size fruit. It still has all the genes of a regular tree, but you're still gonna have the same size fruit. You're just gonna have a much smaller tree, which if you're, you know, short on space, that's really the way to go. Maybe you got acres and acres and acres and you want to do, you know, some full-size trees, and that's great, but just remember it's going to be, you know, 7 to 10 years before those trees start producing. So that is a investment, but it's a long ways out before you get any bounty from it. So thanks for watching. Hope this has been helpful and answered any questions if you may have had on fruit trees. And please give us a like and subscribe, and we'll talk soon. Thank you.